All right, I've
Fun.
started the recording. Got the whole party here. I swear there was a kitten right behind me. I turned the camera to point at her and she's gone.
My cat's assassin.
All right, I'm looking at everybody's character sheets for their cities here.
I have a question.
The Wandering Rut looks pretty close to done. What'd you need?
My only thing was, what was athletics for the city, and should I be worried about putting stuff in potential and stamina?
Don't worry about putting anything into potential right now, and also don't worry about putting anything into traits yet. We'll get into that in a bit. Your traits are going to be awarded to you by the other players as you interact with their cities.
Okay, what does athletics do for a city?
What do acolytes do?
Athletics.
Oh, that is the general health and physical fitness of your population.
So if I have a bunch of athletics, but I don't bother to put anything in stamina, like, is that going to cause problems, or?
No. Stamina is for, like, incredibly weird supernatural shit.
Oh, okay.
If you want your people to generally be buff, physically fit, Spartan kind of people, then yeah, athletics is a good thing to have.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Runeterra, you look like you're done. That's awesome.
Indeed, best city.
Korath and Denim, it looks like you just need to split your renown between your connections and resources as you see fit. Much like with players, connections, resources, or much like with normal people characters, they mean a very similar thing, but it's specifically within your city. So resources indicates a likelihood that a specific material would be available within your city. Connections represents the likelihood that a person with a very specific set of skills will exist within your city.
Oh, there's a puppy.
Yep, that's Freya. She's harassing Na right now. Ed, your character sheet is currently blank. I know you had a good idea for a city, so if you need any help figuring out how to spend your points, let me know. Is Ed with us? I see his icon.
Kind of semi here.
Ah, there he is. All right, and Troy, looks like you have some of your heritage traits filled out. Ooh, Quaking Earth. Is your mountain not necessarily a stable place to have your cavern?
I just meant that more of like any tremors in the earth are not a problem.
Like you've learned to build to account for tremors.
Yes.
Okay.
So you can't shake the ground or cause stuff like that to like break the habitats. Like everything's built around. Which means I was trying to figure out what to do with the other two. I suppose I can just push an immunity for one of them here.
Did anyone have any questions before I start sort of introductions of the cities that are finished?
Are we literally the cities, or because I know there was like talk of like the moot or whatever? So are we supposed to have characters in that, or just the city?
At the moment, you are literally the city. You represent every aspect of it, and you're going to decide how your people will react to different situations. Later, we will make characters from your city to interact at the moot, but at the moment, there is no moot. You are cities, and you have issues that need resolving. Max, let's go ahead and start with you. And we're going to just take us through sort of a tour of your city. What are the people like? What's the architecture like?
I mean, the Wandering Rut is essentially its people, because anything that could be considered like an infrastructure or like buildings or anything like that is pretty much just whatever they set up in the camp, and the current area that they happen to be in. Literally called a rut because once they travel there, they dig out like a certain space in the middle of all their encampments, for basically a trial by combat system under the way they handle disputes within the city, as they have no real hierarchy as far as like leadership or anything like that. It's pretty much whoever the strongest is and whoever has the most power at the moment takes control.
As
They
we
have
walk... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say they have a thick culture, but it's only like basically whatever happens to be going on, within the city, as they're mostly comprised of like outcasts and criminals who've been exiled from other areas.
As our camera pans down the main boulevard of your city, what sort of structures do we see?
Um, like not like so much buildings because they don't have access to like anything more than the occasional large stone that you would find in your you would find in the wastes. More like stuff made from large animal bones, of things that they've killed and somehow been able to keep transport, wagons made from that same material, tents ramshackled together with whatever they've been able to find or trade or acquire through other methods.
So sort of a mix of materials, some textiles, mostly stolen, some animal hides, freshly slain, things like that?
Yeah, they're really hardy people, and they have to be.
Are the tents
Otherwise,
packed closely together, or are they kept far from each other?
I mean, they're close together, but like I said, in basically the center, like you have the large rut. So it's all. So imagine like a so far deep entrenchment that's like an incredibly large circle that's maybe like 5 or 6 feet deep, at like the deepest, and then a whole bunch of like an encampment built around it.
In the middle of the circle, we see two men fighting, or women, and one of them is about to be victorious. How is that person winning?
That's up to them.
Well, it's up to
But
you. This is your
essentially-
city, and that person is going to be the king of your city. They're fighting for the crown, fighting for rulership. How is the winner going to achieve victory here?
By making the other person submit however they can. If they've beaten them so bad that they're unconscious, then they're the obvious.
Well, this isn't a what if.
They-
This is a narration. It's really happening. The
Oh.
fight's really here, and you get to decide the winner. Tell me how they pull it off.
You hit me on the spot with this stuff.
I know, that's what makes it fun.
So it's two combatants, and so you have like one very large like man with a just a huge bone axe, and then another guy who's kind of like not really impressive to look at, and just kind of has like animal hide clothes, and with like a dagger. And you're for sure that as the guy comes down with the axe, that the other dude's just straight up murdered. But when he does, he trips on himself somehow, and ends up like basically decapitating himself. And the other guy didn't even notice as he was picking something up off the floor, as like he just sees like a head roll by, and he kind of like is freaked out by it. And he's the winner.
This incredibly lucky man is now your king. You're going to add him to your city's inventory. He's a quality 6 king, and you're going to give him a single sort of descriptive feature. So what is the thing that highlights how he won and highlights him as a person? We'll see how long he lasts.
Lucky and clumsy.
All right. So
Where's the
in your city's inventory here, we're going to put the Lucky Clumsy King. He's a quality 6 king. At least for the moment. We'll see how well he gets taxed. Tice, can you give us a general overall description of your city?
Am I the only one that can't hear?
What was that?
Aha, there we go. He must not have heard us. Tice, it's your turn. Please give us a just general description of your city.
From the distance, it's a little bit of an oddity in the area. Is a city that is like it is made out of a pure black metallic, sort of like metals, or like it's sort of like it doesn't shine off the sun's like gaze, it sort of more absorbs it, and like you can see it like littered with guards around it, and you like in the top areas you see the fancy nobles, but you can there's a clear distinction of different like statuses in the place. And sometimes you can hear the faint whispering of someone in pain, or possibly someone laughing. It is hard to tell some of the times.
As the camera pans down the main street of your city, what kinds of buildings and structures do we see? Is it all that black material, or are there doorways? What does it look like?
Yes, it is. The old buildings are made out of this strange black material. They're like there's many grand libraries, apothecaries, bleedaries. I don't know what to call that. Like, so,
Bloodletting,
blood wineries.
bloodletting establishments, maybe.
Yes.
As the camera enters the main government structure, what does it look like?
In the main structure is a lavish it's a lavish like it's a council area where everything where where all the chairs and the table are made out of this like lavishly sort of crafted bone. Like you can tell that there is bone in it, like mixture with some kind of tar that like makes a solid polish. But I think so that the first only some of the privy knows that the founders of this city were turned into tables and chairs um, so that sometimes people can use them for like to talk to when they need help with maintaining the city. But they're dead, so they're beneath them.
A new ruler is being anointed to the city. How did he come to power, or she?
As you pan into the thing, you just see you see two people going talking, and the current ruler and a young man. He says, "Yes, but of course, this is we knew this day would come, and and of course I never I should have expected this, especially from someone of your class to have outplayed me." As you see him like already like grabbing a handkerchief and like coughing a little bit of blood, and
Ascension by assassination. Excellent.
and after and he collapses on the ground, and we go to a little bit to the future, and we see we just you see him just sitting there with his glass of wine, and says, you were a great teacher, now you're a great taste," as he takes a sip.
Brutal and delicious. We're going to add to your inventory a quality 6 king. Please give a brief 1 or 2 word sort of description, describing sort of the primary traits that brought them to rule. You don't have to use the title of king either. You can call them something else. Regent, emperor, chairman.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. Let's see, a keyword or two for this. I know it's like trying to think of.
Arch-Chancellor. Alderman.
Not the name for the title of the king, but like the keywords.
I mean, what you've described sounds like it was devious and
Maybe a little ruthless.
yeah, maybe a lot ruthless. I'd say ruthless and devious sound like what we've got going on. Oh, and Max, feel free to go into your inventory and give the Lucky Clumsy King a name, if you wish. Otherwise, he will forever be known as Lucky Clumsy. Sweet? I'm not sure I'd call him sweet.
I guess it was like not the. I'm trying to think of a word that's not sweet, but like I guess someone that's a partaker of fine. Actually, no. Was it? You said devious.
Yeah, devious. He went the route of poison rather than a straight up stabbing. It's quite devious. All right, Miles.
Yes.
The twin cities, but they function as one for the purposes of our adventure. Uh, Go ahead and describe how they appear from the outside.
Sure. So yeah, first you would enter Korath, and what you'd probably immediately be a little surprised by is that for a city of its economic and perhaps diplomatic significance, just for a city-state of significance, this area, you're surprised at kind of the modestness of both scale and construction, or modesty. It's pretty utilitarian in how it's built. There's a very ordered kind of square, kind of grid-like building to it. Mostly wood and stone, with an emphasis on wood. Really, there's not a ton of stone where there doesn't need to be. There's defensive walls, but probably nothing unusual for a prominent city in this area. It's built on a river. Um, it has a busy port, kind of to belie its economic significance, particularly as an exporter of food. Um, you'd notice pretty quickly that there seems to be a general lack of livestock. Um, you wouldn't really see that around, and somebody who was going there without much understanding of the culture, it might be fairly conspicuous. But other than that, it has all the telltale signs of a travel hub. Right along the main street or the main streets, which are kind of pretty standard cobblestone affair. You'd see a lot of inns, some taverns, some markets. If you examined any of them, you'd probably notice that the goods they were selling were a little unorthodox, had a little bit of a kind of weird earthy vibe to them. Um, you'd also periodically throughout the city note a kind of Stonehenge-like formations, um, which um, depending on how familiar you are with the inner workings of the city, and anyone who lived there or is from there or has even spent a particular amount of time there would know that these are kind of nexus points for traversing between the cities. Um, and yeah, pretty much right in the center of the city, you'd likely see something. The kind of vibe I'm thinking of is you'd get is something like the old State House in Boston, which basically it's like very, very obviously like a building from the 16 or 1700s, placed like right in the middle of the downtown commercial financial district where it's surrounded by skyscrapers. So you'd see a building that would look kind of especially modest. It would basically just be a wood longhouse with a particularly solid stone foundation. It would clearly have been built as some kind of a chamber and meeting hall, but it wouldn't be ostentatious at all. It would be mostly notable for the fact that it's kind of visibly the oldest building there. Even the wood at this point is kind of worn gray, um, but that is essentially their palace, so to speak. Um, that's where the council meets and elects its king.
All right. Um, that is an excellent description. Um, so I was going to do sort of the main thoroughfare thing here to just generally get a flavor of like any specifics, types of architecture.
Sure. Yeah, you'd be looking at like extremely. I don't want to use the word utilitarian again, but that kind of describes it. Very function-oriented architecture. There's a kind of elegant craftsmanship simply in how well constructed it tends to be. In fact, if you really kind of closely examine a lot of the woodwork, it's not even really apparent, where the cuts and notches and pegs are. Perhaps there aren't any. But it's for however well made it is, it's generally smallish structures, typically one story, almost never more than three. Three would be pretty much the minimum, the maximum. And along the main thoroughfare, yeah, mostly inns, taverns, marketplaces. Yeah, kind of the standard.
Can you describe whether it's a building or not, whatever the primary center of government is? How does that look?
Yeah, so adjacent to the kind of meeting hall that I previously mentioned, there would be kind of a larger building that looks to be of more modern construction, or at least if you look closely, there's probably older construction at the center of it with the many additions that have been built over the years, perhaps being newer. Although it would take a pretty trained eye to see that. And it's essentially, again, it's still mostly wood with stone foundation, um, large windows, um, pretty much a large administrative building, and that would be where kind of the council and the king typically conduct their business, as well as the various administrative officials who conduct the business of the city state.
At this point in time, a new king is being anointed. How did this king rise to power?
Yeah, so yeah, this king would be the high priest of the Druidic order. In this particular case, he doesn't. That's not. The titles aren't one and the same. They certainly don't have to be the same person. Probably even typically wouldn't be. I think there's kind of a general wariness of concentrating too much power in the hands of the Druidic order, and the Druids themselves are, they're probably pretty aware of that themselves. But in this particular case, there would have been a period of some minor difficulty, probably not too long ago. Maybe they were discovered and there's some kind of some preliminary attempt to cut off some of their trade routes, maybe. But this druid did a particularly good job in kind of negotiating their place and projecting just enough force to get this potential adversary off their case, and that won him enough popular support that when it came time to elect a leader, he was a pretty non-controversial consensus choice.
Excellent. Go ahead and add your king to your city's inventory. He's a quality 6 king, and give him like a 1 or 2 word sort of description of the qualities that made him their leader.
Probably his wisdom. He's very wise.
Right on.
I mean, he's also quite powerful magically, but that probably would be why he got.
Yeah, no, I'm political savvy and knowing not to use your power because it would make you look more dictatorial is a really wise thing to do. So wisdom is a good choice for that. Terra Firma. Ready to go? What does your city look like from the outside?
Like nothing.
Like a
ground.
mountain, an inconspicuous piece of landscape.
Just little ridges here and there. It's basically just like ground. If you stared at it long enough, you would randomly see like large circles or patches pop out of the ground momentarily.
As the camera pans closer to the entrance, what do we see?
So there's multiple entrances, but that aren't really entrances, but there's multiple areas of entry. that all kind of feed into. They all seem to kind of feed into tunnels, and if you followed them through, you would reach another opening. They're all kind of connected to each other, or at least one-to-one kind of stuff like that. And in those paths, some of them have entryways into the actual areas underground.
The camera passing through the entryway and entering into the heart of the city, what do we see?
So it's like a lot of there's a lot of pathways, and there are some open areas, but the open areas are going to be like they'll have more kind of mixture of machinery and infrastructure set up in different elaborate ways. And so there's not any like large like giant chamber, but there are pockets of like kind of the way you'd imagine a hamster maze, I guess. And some of the pockets are bigger than others. And so there's not one that's like vast, but there are mini assembly halls and stuff like that. It can fit probably a few, like 100 people or a couple hundred.
Heading down the main thoroughfare as the camera pans left to right, what sorts of structures do we see, and how are they made?
You probably will see just like you'll see a lot of like what do you call this in tunnel? It's like scaffolding, essentially. Kind of running along the sides. That's everywhere. You can't find an area that doesn't have some sort of support set up or like spaced out gears or something. Just the whole different things. And then, but you'll see doors periodically that lead to little side pockets, which are homes and stuff like that, which are pretty spread out everywhere and pretty constant. So everybody's pretty close to each other with little gaps in between. So it just basically looks like a lot of dirt, but it's very well packed in a way. And any shift, there's people moving up and down in different paths or different channels of the walkways, and they reset the dirt if it ever moves or anything. And so it's constantly being managed, and there's like I said, just big beams going across, so you constantly see like wood and metal mixed together.
Describe the center of government at the city.
So the center of government, central government is a council. They're appointed, but the council's vote means the most. And once they're voted in, they have full decisions or full decision-making power. So it's a set of, let's say, 5 individuals. Yeah, like I said, they have bigger weight on like 4 of them could choose a 5th with more power than the rest of the people choosing for the 5th.
So a sort of a presiding chairman
Group
of the
tyranny.
council. Would you say that there's like a presiding chairman of the council?
If one person has more power than the rest? Is that what you mean?
Yep.
Do you need me to do that?
I mean, you don't necessarily need to have a singular leader if you don't have one. But if you wish to take one, I'm handing out quality 6 leaders right now. So
Gotcha.
Yeah. So if you'd like to have your quality 6 leader, I just need to know how it is they came to be more politically influential than the others present.
Got it. Okay, so I'll say that yeah, so there's one higher than the other four, and the way you get this is by being on the council for the longest time, and so the reasoning that you actually that the council like a 4-person vote could beat a 100+ vote is because it's really just that higher level person making the decision. And so the eldest person on the council has the most knowledge, even that some of the other 4 don't actually have. Just like a little bit more awareness of what's going on. And so there's one that has a few years on the second highest, probably like, let's call it like 15 years on top of the next.
All right, add him to your inventory. He's quality 6, and give him a 1 or 2 word description that sums up how he achieved power. It sounds like just lasting is sort of how he did it. Being
Yeah.
old.
The indefatigable.
It's
There you
holding on to the city's secret for the longest, and knowing how to make the city survive in the state that it's in. And that can only be the person who's the oldest, because no one will have the full information. But yeah, I'll add some stuff about it.
All right. And last but not least, we have Ed. Kashak, the strange tree. Wow, that's awesome. You totally went ham on that too. That's fantastic. All right.
Well, my camera's Steve. That's right.
It's probably trying to decide which of your various cameras to use.
Yeah.
Will it be the camera in front of you, the camera to the side, the camera on your laptop, the camera the CIA hid in the lamp?
Yeah, I updated my Logitech drivers, and Logitech seems to have screwed the pooch on this one, so...
You're just going to turn on the camera. It's going to be like something behind you, like above you. Like, how is that my ceiling fan?
Yeah, there's a rule in life that you never, ever, ever update Logitech drivers.
Yeah.
their updates never make anything better, and they make a lot of things worse.
Yeah, that's been my experience. Okay, so yeah, Kashak is the empire.
What does Kashak look like from the outside?
Coming into the deep forests of the, I don't know, the west, I guess.
South, actually.
You come
guys are
upon
kind of in the south.
the south. Entering the deep forests of the south, the pine trees and deciduous trees of the forest give way to stony outcroppings, the ruins of some ancient civilization. And in the center of the forest is a tower that towers above the trees, a large black ruined tower known as Kashak, the strange tree. Out of it grows actual trees, and that's the seat of the seat of power of the Kashak people.
As the camera pans down sort of the major thoroughfare present there, what do we see?
Yeah, so along the branches and outcroppings and trunks of the trees that sprout out of the tower, and the trees around them on the ground, a multitude of small, roughly 2.5 to 3 feet tall raccoon creatures are busy in the industry of trading. Long ago, when we were still animals, we believed that hoarding acorns was of value. And then the spark of realization that created the Kashak was the realization that an acorn sacrificed today could yield multitudes in the future. The discovery of the strange tree came later, and the realization that all things follow this rule. And that some of the strange and relatively useless cubes of paper that were found within the Great Strange Tree could be taken out into the world and exchanged with animals for more strange cubes of paper um, that would then feed the tree and increase its volume of strange cubes of paper, um, arcane devices, and small chunks of metal that seem to have so much value to others.
Please describe the center of government for the tree.
The center of government is sort of at the base of the tree, and it you would probably describe it as a large bazaar in which various um, items, oddities, and in some cases completely mundane things are traded in exchange for other um, complete and mundane things. Um, the strong belief of the people that um, with proper tending, all things can multiply, and this is to the benefit of everyone, people and animals alike. Um, the seat of government is the great market, um, where the goal of the great market is to increase the flow of exchange to the benefit of everyone. To hoard something and keep it um, is to uh, is to halt progress to the detriment of the world. To give it away in exchange for something else of value is to multiply all the things.
And does Master Blaster rule Bartertown? Sorry, that was not a serious question. Uh, so the government structure then, is there a sort of director that directs trade?
Not particularly, though. We have a group of there is a group of elite merchants. They have an ancestral name given to them by the animals. They are called Dirte Thieves, and the Dirte Thieves go out into the world as diplomats and retrieve items of value that can then be used to increase the exchange.
On this day, there is a newly anointed head of the Dirte Thieves. How did they come to power?
They came to power by entering into a grove and retrieving an important, what appeared to be an extremely valuable piece of wood from a sleeping old man who was lying in the grove. Um, the large, otherwise completely unassuming staff of wood gives off a soft greenish light when waved around near the trees, and this has seemed to be something of incredible value. Um, it has already been the since the returning of the Dirte Thief. This staff has already traded hands several hundred times, increasing the value of everyone by great amounts.
All right. So you can add your current Dirte Thief as an item in your city's inventory. He's a quality 6, and give him just a 1 or 2 word description of how he came to rise to power. It sounds like thievery is in there.
I don't know if he'd see it that way.
No, he might not. And there may be another way of describing that would be friendlier to him.
We do not steal. No theft occurred. Even from animals, theft is forbidden. Theft is not an exchange. A small sack of acorns was left in exchange for the staff.
Trading without permission.
You can't really get permission from animals. I mean,
Fair point.
sometimes they offer things to you, in which case it's rude not to accept. But this man was asleep. This animal was asleep, and it would have been rude to wake him. So
All right. Each of you has a person who's newly come to power. newly become a decision maker, except in the case of Terra Firma, where he's just been in power forever, apparently. Or since the last guy that was older than him died. And so it is that this new kings are all faced with a general sweeping issue across your niche, which is a very poor harvest. In the case of UMAX, there wasn't much to steal.
Yeah.
And so it is that we're going to see how poor harvest this is and see how well you guys deal with it. Is Uther up and running yet?
Being stolen from me.
No.
But yes, it was raccoon folk, right? You said?
Yeah, we're kind of like raccoon folk.
Oh man, you should look in the DMs. Such an adorable borrower.
You should be up now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's rolled.
Oh, oops. I did that backwards. That was supposed to be T3.
Looks like Discord changed their API, and now Uther on start reads the entire message history of session.
That's gonna get real interesting.
It's gonna escalate linearly forever. I mean, at least it's linear, but I still don't like that. So,
Oops.
I told him to listen, not to read everything.
Okay, so that would have been 9. All right, so all of you guys have 9 hunger that you need to solve for your city. This can be solved in multiple rolls, but everything after the first roll will tax your leader by 1 as he rushes to try and do something else. So, we'll start with you, Max. What would you like to have your leader do? Oh, Ed, you can add him to your inventory tab. You actually.
I know, I don't really like tabs.
All right, yeah, fair enough.
As far as
If I had my
You're
way,
going to end up with more people, so just be prepared.
if I had my way, I would just write this out on a PDF on my iPad. Just draw on it. That's the better way.
As far as like trying to deal with this current situation, you mean?
Yeah, food supplies are low, and the people now look to you as the guy who recently killed his way to the top to resolve their issue.
Say we move camp because this current area of the waste is more terrible than every other place in the waste, so let's find one less terrible.
Packing up and moving camp may change your fortunes, but it will not put apples in the barrels. I'm not saying you can't move camp. I'm just saying that doesn't really give you any roles that would be relevant to try and build up to 9.
What about like trying to? All right. Well, what about just taking like a team and trying to kill wildlife for meat and such.
Okay, going on a hunt. If this is an organized team, then I would say probably that would be military plus survival.
Yeah. Organized so much so as the people that are extremely hungry happening to get together and wander in the same direction. Yeah.
Well, if they're being ordered to do it, it's different than if they're just culturally adept at hunting. So if you're going to appeal to their cultural sense, then that might be culture plus survival, which I see is the same number of dice.
Yeah. Nice.
Very nice. All right. So you only have 4 dice of hunger left. It's up to you. You can give up and take that as tax to your city, reducing either like health or endurance or composure, depending on how they want to take it. Or you can tax your leader to make another decision and try something else at the same time. This would be a simultaneous action, meaning that it could not be going on another hunt. It would have to be something else entirely, since the hunt is already taking place. You are permitted to go to war with other cities that you're aware of in the area if you want to take their food. This would give you dice, but also take it away from whoever you're attacking.
Nah, I'll tax my leader 1 and have him basically have to give up some of his resources to convince like some of the more seedy people in town to dig up resources through either their own personal stuff or through their connections.
This sounds like crime, maybe?
Yes.
Crime plus intrigue? I'm feeling intrigue on this one. Could also do crime plus economy, but this seems more like an intrigue thing. You're trying to find the guys that are hoarding and drag their shit out into the open for everybody to split up.
Yeah, that works. I did it wrong again, didn't I?
Yeah, / instead of /. That is like the hardest part of using U3.
Oh, well, that's not so hard, bad.
Not terrible. So you have 1 point left. You can tax your guy.
I can do 1 to composure.
All right. So your people are a little miffed by being a little short on food, but it's not too bad.
I meant endurance.
Runeterra.
Yes. So it has come to sitting at my account. So it comes to me to believe that our food stocks have been dwindled. The people, the farmers, have not been doing their jobs in the way that we expected them to do. But we still do expect them to feed the city, no matter what. So as we've been sort of seeing this sort of signs coming towards the city, we've been pushing the city inch by inch to help with this, but we're going to have to we're going to have to supply the city with the people itself.
You are allowed to do that if you just want to take this as a hit to your city's health. It is a 9-point hit right now.
I'm also going because I'm also going to be going through the books of my teacher and a few others to see what kind of sacrificing the people to be able to possibly use their life essence to grow crops again as well. So I'm going for a scholarship intrigue.
I think yeah, scholarship is definitely the right one for that. I'm not sure that intrigue is though. This isn't really a sneaky thing. This is more about how much knowledge your city has. This seems like it would be either an infrastructure thing or maybe an industry thing. At a stretch, I might call it cultural, but yeah, you're looking for knowledge. So whether or not that knowledge is present in your libraries would be more of, I think, an
I can go with industry.
okay, yeah, that makes the most sense. Okay, you do apparently find some spells that let you convert the suffering of your people into magical crops. So you have 5 points remaining as tax to distribute, or you can tax your leader to make another action.
So I can tax my health, composure, or endurance, or is endurance or not endurance?
Endurance, yeah. So endurance will eventually be what you want to have in order to activate talents as you get them, which we'll get into as your city develops its abilities. But at the moment, yeah.
So I'm going to just take the hit for now. I'm going to take 2 points off of authority and 3 points off of health.
All right. Your people are sacrificed, and they begin questioning your authority as a result. But the crops do grow. Miles,
Yes.
believe it or not, even druids sometimes get a bad harvest. It happens.
Yeah, I mean, the effectiveness of the powers can wax and wane like anything else.
Absolutely.
This was yeah. Um, so I think in response to this, we will redouble the efforts, particularly in Downwind, to channel our druidic capabilities towards essentially creating a better harvest, to augmenting what harvest we do have by means of our druidic magics with
This
regards
sounds
to
like a
agriculture.
culture plus agriculture to me. Was there something
Yes.
else you were going for?
Nope, that's exactly what I was going for, because that's 8 dice.
Okay, go for it. And immediately that mitigates a lot of the problems. You've got 3 dice left. You may tax your leader if you want to take another action. It would be a simultaneous action, meaning he's stretching himself to do 2 things at once.
Um, I could. So let's see. I have 3 more to take.
Yep.
No, I think I'll just take. I think I'll just take the hit. I'll take maybe 1 to perseverance, and 2 to health.
All right. Stiff upper lip. Your people will persevere.
Yeah, they figured that they got it pretty well, all things considered. Still not ideal, but they'll live. They'll make.
Not ideal. There's some of your population is getting close to starvation levels. There's some malnutrition, but yeah, it's being handled very stoically.
Oh wait, if that means malnutrition, I probably should tax my leader because I don't think he'd really be down with that. I could potentially make a medicine infrastructure goal to try to get out a network of druids to kind of triage people, feed the people who are most in need, heal those who are overcome by any kind of sickness relating to malnutrition.
That makes sense. Getting good infrastructure to target the most needy areas of your city would be definitely a medicine role.
All right, cool. There's the other 3.
There you go. So there is no need to tax at all.
Well, I'll tax my leader, right?
Right, your leader. Yeah.
Yeah.
Terra firma. The mushroom crops are not what they once were.
We have meat too. Just nobody knows what it comes from.
Tasty
That also.
beetles.
Some of it was bad.
The bugalo. There's some disease among your bugalo. So facing a 9-point starvation issue, how would you like to act?
All right, so I'm thinking use what we have left to bait our like sinkhole entrances and try to get a wildlife to walk into those in nearby, like in our outstretched port like entrances. Kind of bait those sinkholes and get like extra meat from animals outside to fall in, and once they're in, it's kind of over.
It's like a sarlacc.
It's like, yeah, I was thinking like trap spiders, kind of, and like, yeah, like a sarlacc.
That's a weird one. That's kind of an infrastructure plus survival kind of situation there.
Pretty much, yeah. It's a very animalistic way to handle the situation.
All right, make your roll.
Okay, there's 3.
All right, you have 6 points remaining. You can tax your leader to take another simultaneous action, or you can distribute those 6 points into your various resistances or your aptitudes. Or skills, wherever you want to put it.
I'm trying to think of what kind of nutrition can be found underground. Um, well, I was okay. So maybe I can text the leader and say that there's this isn't a rarity, and so the people are used to this kind of idea, and everyone working different shifts of like just kind of everybody piles on and doubles the like digging efforts and stuff like that to find, you know, other fungi or grubs or stuff in the ground that they can like dig out in the like extra like in the usual like growing tunnels kind of thing. 'Cause there should be
Okay,
always some source of food in the ground.
that sounds like an agriculture roll.
Okay, and I assume that'd be paired with culture probably.
Yeah, especially if they're just digging anywhere and they're not specifically working within like your cities. So your industry and your economy don't really play into it.
Yeah. I mean, there's like stuff built around for this, like where they dig, because they know they know where not to dig based on what's built where, but I would sure based on why they're doing it.
Okay.
How do we do? Can we do masteries at all? Do we decide? So I was gonna give them a digging mastery. I can change that to something else if we don't want to do anything sort of like that.
Yeah, if you want to do that, that can give you. So we're going to do traits for threshold bonuses, not masteries. For talents and methods, I was going to start giving you guys talents based on how you handle these situations. So I was going to hand out some free talents in a bit, but
got it.
yeah, and you've got 30 experience points dumped into talents and methods right now, and it looks like you got. Oh no, you got some of them from. Okay, you got gifted.
Yeah, I mean I can change these around too. This was 15 minutes of making the character sheet or city sheet. So I can change whatever. I mean, if we're doing anything from traits, then I can use keen ground movement because they're able to pick up. Almost anybody in the city is able to pick up movement through the ground. So if there's grubs and stuff like that, then they can find those.
There you go. That's a good one.
And how would that bonus at all? Or
it gives you 2 pips.
Pips, cool.
Yep, it's a keen sense. So yeah, 2 pips.
Is that agriculture or is that labor? Agriculture because it's food.
Yeah, I mean, you're not really like you're not unearthing some hidden stockpile here. You're sort of sending your people around. I might almost call this survival again, but
He's tending the land in his own way.
yeah, you're tending your land. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Wow.
Well, thank God for those pips.
Thank God for
right?
those pips. Yeah.
Oh, at least I got the one, so that's 5 going into me.
Yeah.
Okay, I have health. I can take it.
You can tax your leader one more time to try something else.
I'm running out of ideas, though.
There's one thing no one else has tried yet, although I'm certain Ed's going to try it. So you could always try trade.
Yeah, the only problem is whatever you pair with trade, stuff I don't have. Realistically, I could get 2 dice out of it.
Yeah, that's probably not a great play for your people. That's one of the things, like, I think you might want to just take the observant and watchful out and reclaim those points to distribute into your, because that's 20 points of experience that you could distribute into your stuff.
Yeah. I also I'd get a different trait than gifted, obviously. But that would just be 10 points. So I did it that way. So I had 10 points to redistribute, but it doesn't really matter. I can't get enough of the thing.
No, you should have 20. If you take out that trait, we also have to take out digging. And there you go. You're at 20.
Oh, I see what you were doing.
I know the spreadsheet very well. It and I go way back.
I mean, I did originally have this vision for trade. Just that most of the city isn't aware of it. Let me see if I can do a quick rebalance.
All right. Your secret trade force has been constructed very rapidly.
Well, the idea was like the civilization within the city doesn't necessarily know all the things that are going on, so they're doing their best to work through these things. But the and I'll redistribute those other points a different way.
That's fine. This may be a major sea change for your civilization. They may have been isolationists before, but major starvation can be a grand motivator for getting out into the world.
Well, I mean, like half the population is technically in isolation, and the other half is not, but they don't come out. So the trade section coalition, I don't know, goes through all their things, all their books, and figures out what resources we have value to trade to nearby. City, are we the only cities? Is that how this is working?
That you know of, for the moment. And there's some kind of empire north of the mountains that you never really had serious contact with. Also, apparently there's some elves on some island south in the ocean, but again, like, it's far away. You don't deal with it.
Got it. Well, okay, so through our digging, we've come across a lot of buried things from long ago.
Probably also lots of raw ore.
A lot of raw ore, and so we have a lot of that, and we have refining capabilities, and so we put those resources together and then go out to nearby places, nearby cities that we're aware of, and proceed to trade, attempt to trade those things for additional food.
All right, choose a city to trade with.
Who is nearest to me?
So you have, there's the city of Black Towers that shifts like a clockwork mechanism. There is a strange tree full of raccoons. There is a Badlands area where a wandering group of tent dwellers kill each other for no apparent reason. And there is a lovely place run by druids that seems quite pleasant. So you have blood and violence, druids, and raccoons. Those are your choices.
Well, I'm assuming that I know the raccoons to be traders, and I also, because I have a strong trading force, and I know the druids will have food. I will definitely be avoiding the other two.
Oh.
I don't want my people to go get eaten while they're trying to get food for everybody else, or attacked or whatever. It does thin the numbers, though. I guess it could be a really effective way to send them out for trade when they're actually just thinning the population out a little bit. Anyway, I'll say the raccoons. I go to trade them to try to see what they foraged and stuff like that. It should be a decent amount of food and stuff we're relatable to, I'm assuming.
All right, make your economy plus trade.
Wow, it's a good game.
All right, so you still have 3 points remaining. Now, here's the neat thing about trade, because Ed's still got to make his rolls. If Ed ends up having to take taxes, you can trade taking those taxes for him in exchange for food, if you wish. So you guys can come to some arrangement of trading, but you did get 2 food out of the deal. It turns out those raccoons, they're hard bargainers.
Gotcha. So I essentially have 3 pending tax.
You have 3 pending tax, but you've got the option to offer to take tax on behalf of Ed in exchange for, for doing things like that. So there might be things he needs that would say tax your industry, but if you guys can come to an arrangement as to what you're willing to trade, we'll see how that pans out. Ed, your raccoons, the trees are usually so bountiful, and some sickness has taken hold, and there's very few acorns. You have 9 tax to try and mitigate.
Well, the high dirt of theft gathers the gaze of thefts, and scarcity is only caused by one thing, and that's insufficient volume of exchange. And so we will go out to increase the volume of exchange to multiply all the things. We intend to trade with animals, trees, and anything else that will have things of value, and we'll bring a large number of things to trade. For the next few months, you might find like some arcane book from an ancient civilization just nestled under a tree.
All right. Which animals would you like to trade with?
Any animals that are in the area. If we discover any of the animals that have come over here from Troy's kingdom, then we'll trade with those. Otherwise, like, bears, foxes, whatever's out there.
So if you're trading with the
bees are good
speaking
for trading.
animals, then that would be a trade roll. If you're trading with trees or non-speaking animals, that would be survival roll.
All right. Well, we don't have a lot of survival, but yeah, we'll trade with pretentious animals. They tend to be better at multiplying things.
Now, all of this is sort of happening simultaneously, so when you set out, you don't necessarily know that Troy's people are coming to you, but you can go to them, or you can go to the city of other people who like trees a lot, the city that's black and has the smell of blood, or the tents in the Badlands where the animals eat each other.
We'll probably head over towards the people that like trees, the animals that like trees, but on the route we may encounter... there are always like random speaking animals in our woods.
Yeah.
Because we increase the trade so much that there's so many people that want to come and trade with us. So, so we're happy to trade with whoever's there. So we'll go ahead and trade with Troy's people, I suppose.
All right. Roll your economy plus trade.
I've got a gift for that as well.
Awesome. Oh, and you took the which disadvantage did you take?
For gifted, I don't think.
Not for the talented resource acquisition. You took a Q4.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Because it's Q2 if you don't take a disadvantage.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot. Probably abrasive. We don't.
Okay.
Or aloof, probably. We don't really see other people as sentient. That seems reasonable. So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, that was unfortunate.
How? Oh my goodness.
3 natural ones, Jesus.
3 natural runs and nothing above a 5. Good grief. All right, so I guess the famine has hit a lot of the place, and there's not a lot of people who have things to trade. Fortunately, you did encounter Troy's people along the way, so you have you've got your 5 there. I'm sorry, your 3 that you've taken out. So there's 6 more. You can tax your leader to perform another ancillary action. So trading with trees, maybe an agriculture role, or trading with animals, a survival role. Or you can bargain with Troy to see if he's willing to absorb some of those points for you. He has points he also needs to absorb. See what you guys want to do for each other. The balance of the number of tax is going to be the same.
I'm gonna go ahead and send some of the thefts over to trade with the druids. We can't take charity. That's not an exchange. So we're going to go trade with the druids, and by trade I mean we're going to take their food and exchange it for rocks, or grass, or other things we find of value on our way over there.
Okay, so this is trading without asking, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, so that would be a crime plus economy. Or crime plus intrigue, depending on how you want to go about it. I think, though, the fact that you're still giving up your shiny rocks.
We'll leave them some nice ancient tomes. Maybe some pentagrams that occasionally summon imps and things like that we have no use for.
All right.
When you find ancient artifacts on the ground, it's probably because we left them there in exchange for some, like, a tasty mushroom.
So that takes care of 5 tax so far, but you did succeed in a theft. So you can literally give Miles some of your tax. You have a limit of up to 5 that you can give, but at the same time, you don't need to give 5. So you, yeah.
So how much tax am I dealing with at the moment?
So right now you've gotten, let's see, 5 plus 3 is 8. So you actually only have 1 tax left you need to deal with.
I'll see if the enterprising traders, Troy's enterprising traders, would have something of value to exchange there. If not, we'll trade that for with the druids without their permission.
Sorry, I'm loving this trade without permission.
Do you have an offer? Going once. I mean, we have another lined up,
And
their offer is very difficult to. Their offer is firm. I mean, it's unavoidable.
So we have many watching posts all around from our various tunnels. So we can sell like information on locations of food stores and different stuff like that.
Yeah, we will happily accept information on food stores and ancient random bits of garbage that are useful to people.
And so I assume that would be like something like intrigue, so I could like tax my intrigue.
You could tax your intrigue by 1 to give him basically 2 points off on something.
Okay, I can do that. And it just gives him information on where he can find things, where they can better set up their trade route.
Yep. So Ed, if you accept that trade, then
I should have an extra die, right?
You end up with, you've got an extra die above and beyond what you need.
Okay, so we have too much, and that's also unfortunate. So we'll take the rest of it and we'll give it to the druids. They'll just find a large gift basket of food.
Which is funny because the druids are the one people that don't need it. They totally solve their problems internally.
It'll come with a note that says, "Thank you very much for your trade." It's like constant exchange benefits all.
All right, Troy, you've apparently given up a point of tax for no return. What was it you were getting in return from that?
Good trade in the raccoons. Jeez, there was no trade offered on my.
I mean, we'll give you a pile of books. I don't know what's in the books. They're whatever books I have on me for trade value.
I mean, if I can get
Would you like
good,
this? Would you like this staff? It
I can
glows
keep.
pleasantly near trees.
That is an item of power there, which you can take it if you want.
I mean, that might be good. That might be useful.
All right. So add to your item a quality 4 Staff of Growth. Which can be used to enhance agricultural rolls.
Perfect.
All right, so everybody's sort of done something to try and mitigate this. And so I'm going to be awarding everyone a talent. Max, you went on a great hunt. And I think a great hunt is a good talent for you to have. So what a great hunt is as a talent, you can tax your survival by 1 to simply resolve any hunger issues that your people have in the future.
Nice.
Anything that would tax by 1, you can instead tax your endurance by 5 and not have to actually tax your survival at all. So that's just a general rule of the game, is that endurance exists for the purpose of eating the tax that you would normally spend on a talent. It's at a 5-to-1 ratio for the moment, but that can be improved with further talents. So your first talent is the Great Hunt, and give yourself 10 experience points for surviving the first great calamity of your people. Runeterra, you solved the problem in an interesting way. You sought out magical research. And so I think you deserve a talent that is related to that. I'm thinking that you should have a talent that lets you tax your scholarship to add your scholarship in dice to any other roll, which we will call Knowledge from the Depths. Or Scouring the Great Library, something like that. But mechanically, that's going to allow you to tax your scholarship to add its dice to any other roll. And just like the other one, you can tax your endurance by 5 instead of taxing this. Miles, you went the magic route, but not through research, but through a pure act of just culture and doing your thing. And that's I think very similar to that option, but I don't want to have an ability that taxes your culture, as that's a really steep penalty unless it's crazy powerful. And I'm not sure I want to give out crazy powerful stuff right now until like you decide that you really want to go that route. So in this one, I'm going to kind of leave it up to you. What sort of ability do you want to have related to this? We could do something similar to Max's, which is you have magical gardens, and we can just say you can tax your agriculture by 1 to solve any food shortage issue through magic.
Yeah, I think that's fine. It's basically either that or something relating to innovation or perseverance. Either one. I think the agriculture one's probably simpler and more direct. So that might be the way.
Okay. Yeah, the main reason that I didn't sort of lean on your perseverance is you end up needing to use it because your pure agricultural ability took care of things for you. But yeah, all right. Magical Gardens. I love it. Give yourself 10 experience points to cover that expenditure.
Oh, is it just 10 experience points to cover the talent, or is it the talent and also?
No, just the 10 to cover the talent. Yeah. Terra Firma, you struggled. You struggled quite a bit. I see you ended up putting some points in your health and things. You definitely worked your leader quite a bit, and so I think the fact that your leadership is a council should give you an advantage in taxing your leader. I'm gonna say that you have a talent which allows you to convert 5 endurance from your nation in place of taxing your leader. So you don't necessarily need to tax your leader to use his ability. You can put that into endurance instead. Kind of like a sort of a weapon skill kind of thing that we would do on a normal person, where we'd let them tax their endurance instead of their axe for doing a cool axe move. You have a diversified council of leadership, and so that enables you to just tire out your leadership, your sort of your city leadership as a whole, instead of tiring out a single individual.
Okay, so is that what's the ratio? Like what would be the equivalence? How much
At the
endurance?
moment, it's a 5-to-1. That can be improved with later talents, but yeah.
Okay, so initially it's like I can spend 5 endurance
You can
instead
spend
of the
5 endurance instead of taxing your leader for future things.
Got it.
And Ed, I think you definitely need that thing that lets you apply your crime to trade, or maybe trade to crime. I don't remember what it's called exactly, but there was a thing for just normal people.
Is that 5 finger discount?
What's that?
Is that 5 finger discount? Maybe. Probably not. That's just the first one that
Oh,
jumps.
yeah, that sounds like it. I gotta load up the fluid page here.
While you're looking at that, it was taxed what by 1 to solve hunger for me?
I think it was survival, right?
Five-finger discount. I can add my crime as a bonus to my resources.
We can go that route if you want.
I mean, I'm totally fine with rolling 14 dice for trade, but I mean, it would also be reasonable. I think something that I might not mind is that crime and basically trade applies. I can use my trade to acquire resources from like trees and like abandoned dungeons. Like,
Okay.
cause, I mean, we see everything as trade. Um, like whenever I'm trying to gather stuff or get things, like we view that as trade, even if we're stealing it and or just actually harvesting crop. We're trading with the earth to get some food. We don't actually grow anything. That doesn't happen. I mean, it would be somebody else. Somebody else probably grew it, but we're trading with the earth. You know.
All right. So you get a talent where you can use trade in situations that do not necessarily involve a sentient entity.
I shall call it globalism.
Nice. Miles, your city
Yes.
is the first. your city fared the best during this hardship, and is the first approached by some druids that are not city druids, druids from the wild, um, who have noticed the sickness has infected much of the wilderness around as well, and they have been working on treating things. Notice that you came through very much unscathed, and so they are visiting partly to just pay their respects as fellow druids, and also partly to suggest that perhaps the other nations who did not fare so well could benefit from a sort of formalized meeting of nations to discuss larger events in the valley.
King Torum in particular would be a very he'd be very much aligned with that. Our druidic order is kind of the view. This might actually put us at odds with some of the non-city druids, but our view is basically that the goal of mankind is not necessarily to exist, like, in the forests in nature, but to exist in our best and most stable state, and that all but requires stable diplomatic relations. So that would be very much in line with what we believe in.
The druids are not. They're being very polite and holding back sort of their views against city druids in this discussion. But they are pointing out that they've noticed a lot of harm to wildlife has come as a result of this famine. And some of the city's responses to deal with it were to hunt species to near extinction just to fill their bellies. There have been an inordinate amount of hunts and trappings of creatures throughout the valley. Not just by the crazy Badlands guys, but also by the strange folk that hide in the mountains. The raccoons were just grabbing everything they could lay their hands on. So there's a great deal of ecological damage that they're trying to clean up. And they think that avoiding larger problems like this in the future by coordinating efforts may be of benefit to the wilds as well as the city folk. And so, they're going to be on their best behavior here and not insult you. And are suggesting a meetup with representatives from all 5 of the cities of the valley. They've found a spot that they really like. Apparently it's of some astrological significance. A star fell there a long time ago, or so they say. It seems like a good spot, but they do need food. Because if they're going to host a gathering, they need to make sure that the people gathered there do not starve. And they don't want people bringing their own stuff, because if they do, then they might try and steal from each other or fight over things. So they like to provide, but as the forest is recovering from a famine, they don't have a lot of supplies. And you seem to have done the best in handling the famine. You've suffered no ill consequences. Basically, they're begging for a donation.
Sure. What amount of food are they looking? Is this something that we can reasonably spare?
If you tax your agriculture by 1, then they will have sufficient food.
You know what? As a gesture of good faith, I'll go ahead and do that.
They thank you for the donation, and ask that a leader and a small entourage meet up with them at a given date and time.
Okay.
In Runeterra, a druid has arrived at the edge of the city. He will not set foot in, but his magic is felt throughout the city. And guards that approach him say that he demands to speak with the leader, but he won't enter the city's perimeter. All attempts to capture him have failed, as roots have ensnared the attackers. And yet still he stands his ground and makes no aggressive action.
All about the same age.
I guess I need to
This is what happens.
see what this strange
Dad says
gentleman
when you get to
wants.
about 60 years old,
like,
your shit can.
I'll
These
get
guys
my
look about
my best
60.
clothes on, like with my cane, and I'll sort of just like
That's what they do.
stroll out to like the edge of the city to like, and I like lean on my cane. So, you are the Rascallion I've heard about.
He gives a fairly simple speech. It's very much from your perspective. He speaks very much about the needs of the city, the hunger of its people, and how the city is itself not an isolated place, that there is a world around it that can provide solutions. It actually seems kind of generous what he's offering until he gets to the point of it, which is that he would like you to supply him with some material with which to basically construct a meeting place. The material that he wants it's fairly simple. It's not like crazy stuff. He just needs a fair quantity of it. You can. There's a few different ways you can go about supplying him. You can tax your agriculture to just give him food, but he knows you don't have a lot of that, and he's not interested in offerings of blood. But you do have pretty good crafting, and crafted goods such as tents would be very useful. So if you want to, you may tax your crafting by 1 to provide him with materials with which to set up a meeting of the 5 cities so that they can discuss and coordinate against disasters such as the recent famine.
Yes, and we will. This is a big smile on his face. We will also help build the place we'll help you build it.
All right, go ahead and tax your crafting by 1, and he and your builders head off to begin constructing the sort of impromptu fairground that will make up this place.
Yeah.
Terra Firma. It's really unclear how the druid got in.
Yeah, and as a side note, like it's gonna look a little bit messy, but like it's sort of like how the city is. If you look from above, it's gonna be it's gonna be another symbol of from above for building.
You'll later find out it's not, but yeah, I understand your intent. Your engineers are going to have a very interesting report when they get home.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, Runeterra. I'm sorry, Terra Prime. Terra Firma. We've got too many Terras. All right, Terra Firma. It is unclear how the druid got in, but he seems to just walk through the dirt as though it's not an obstacle. Stone doesn't prevent him, but at the same time, he doesn't really seem aggressive. He's just sort of looking about. Occasionally, animals tunnel past him, like little moles and things, and he just pets them and continues on his way. Upon reaching the council, he bows, shows great courtesy, if not real knowledge of your culture, and presents a very simple offer. He is trying to organize a meeting of the 5 nations of the valley, and they just need a little bit of help getting the meeting set up. He notices that you guys have exceptional engineers, and there are some engineering challenges to make the plateau they wish to set up the meeting on accessible. And so he's asking if he can borrow some of your engineering core for a bit and help them set up, and then invites you guys in exchange for that to attend a meeting of the nations where issues such as famine can be discussed and negotiated to better prevent large-scale disasters in the future. If your council is in agreement of this, you can tax your engineering by 1, and it will proceed.
So long as he came directly into the council chambers without actually traveling through the city itself when he was traveling, then they're happy to do it, because that would be his kind courtesy.
it is entirely unclear how he got in there. He just
It's
walks through a
important that
wall
the
into the
other
council
city
chamber.
doesn't
Yeah.
see him moving around. So they simply confirm that he was not
Yeah,
seen by the
no one saw him arrive or enter. He just showed up at the council chamber. Yeah.
They agree to issue engineers so long as they choose the engineers, and he leaves the same way.
He tells them where the engineers are to be sent. He doesn't care who the engineers are, and yeah, and then he just steps through a wall, and no one else in the city sees him. No one's sure how he got out.
Perfect. So I'm taxing my engineering by 1. Is that
Tax your engineering by 1. Some of your engineers are going to be out in the field for a little bit.
Got it.
Ed, for ease of use, I'm going to change the name of your file from copy of city state sheet template to the strange tree, or Kashak the strange tree.
Okay.
There we go. Now my tabs have names that I can read. Okay. So, an animal, one of the talking kind that walks upright with clothes and a cane, shows up. And at first you think maybe he's looking for that staff, perhaps. But it turns out he's not even aware that it's there, and that's fine. He's come to trade, and his trade is a very interesting one. He mostly wants to trade for the... eventually, ultimately, it comes down that he wants to trade for the presence of the Kashak at a meeting. At a specific day and place. But also, he is very much interested in trading for materials as well. Things to help him with the meeting. Not necessarily food, as he seems to have that covered, but niceties, the sorts of things that make a day pleasant. Nice smelling spices, scented candles. The books are amusing to him as a sort of a means to an end, but he doesn't really need them. He needs just basic materials. If you are amenable to doing business with him, you may tax your trade by 1 and have a place at the meeting.
Of course, if he's asking for trade, we can't refuse. We'll bring him scented candles and warn him that...
Warn him what?
We'll trade him scented candles and warn him the last time that we lit those. A large glowing portal opened up and things came out.
He thanks you for the warning. And he casts a lot of spells to figure out which candles are just candles. Deep in the... Oh, wait. Yeah, there it is. All right. Deep in the wilderness where your camp has been moved to, deep in the Badlands, a man emerges from the dust. He is not one of your people. He walks on a cane, and he approaches your camp. Stepping within, as you have little in the way of defenders, but he challenges no one. Instead, approaching your leader's tent, and while some think maybe he's come to challenge for leadership, he has not. He has come because he is inviting you to a party. There's a caveat. He wants you to bring gifts to the party. And you are in what he calls a unique position to provide gifts of meat. There will be those who eat meat at this party. And he and his brethren do not trade in such things. But he's aware that you have a bit of a stockpile that you've recently put together. And so if you can bring some of your salted meats to the party to appease the other meat eaters there, you will have a place.
I warn him to keep his positions close, as some people here, maybe eyeing them. But I also let him know that he is by far one of the bravest for just walking in to the camp. Like, most are on their guard, but I mean, he only came in, and if he really wants to invite uh, this type of group into a party, then I'm willing to pay his small price for access to possibly something greater.
All right, he thanks you. Go ahead and tax your survival by 1. And yeah, you take some of the meat to the party. The first Star Moot is an odd affair, mostly because it's still kind of under construction. Engineers are still figuring out how to get people up to the top of the plateau, as it is a nearly inaccessible edifice. Formed entirely naturally, but it's just a towering stone that, with a very flat, smooth surface on top, and dirt and trees. But a lot of the trees need to be cut down, except for the ones around the perimeter, to make space for the tents. And the druids are working with engineers to do that. Other engineers are making crude pulley systems to get up the sides, while others argue about maybe making stairs. But the project to make stairs looks like it's something that will take years to complete, whereas the pulley system is something that they were able to rig up relatively quickly. Entourages are relatively small. The king arrives with, some people, whoever you send, but only like about 5 or 10 are able to actually get up the pulleys in a reasonable amount of time. But at the top, there's a pretty good feast. Tents are set up, and there's no permanent structures up here, which is why, Tice, you don't have the weird patterns, as it's basically just a bunch of temporary structures. But there's scented candles, warm fires, and it is generally a pleasant affair. And then the druids sort of announce what's going on. You are the 5 cities, and as such, we think that on a regular basis, when the stars align, which is every few years out here, it's not too long a period, that we should have regular meetings in this place to discuss the comings and goings of the events here in the valley, and prevent large-scale catastrophes such as the famine that recently struck many of your cities. As they're having this discussion, there's some shouting from down below. Running over to see, your guards note that there is what looks kind of like an army approaching from the north. The trees are just kind of being knocked side to side, and at the front of a large battalion of soldiers, a man dressed in garb you've never seen before. Standing next to him is a woman in full plate mail atop a armored steed. And these people are at the head of what looks like a full battalion of soldiers. They approach the base, and there is discussion, and then eventually a messenger comes up and says, "An empire from north of the mountains wishes to join the discussion." It's really not our place to refuse him, but at the same time, you are the 5 nations, and so we put it to a vote. What would the 5 of you say? Should we admit them to this discussion?
Is there any particular reason that I'll pose this question to the others? Is there any particular reason why we should not want to hear them out?
I don't know them as much as I don't know any of you, so I don't care.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, hearing them out is not really any different than attending the Star Moot with a bunch of strangers in the first place. It seems to be effectively the same decision, and we've already made it once. So I'm fully on board with making that same decision again and seeing what they have to say.
Indeed,
God.
especially since they have an army down there that outnumbers us by quite several hundred.
The people will trade with 4, but to trade with 5 is better.
That sounds like 3 votes of yes, which is all that is needed, but I would hear from the rest. Actually, it sounds like 4 votes of yes, I think.
Yeah, mine was whatever.
Okay,
Vote.
3 yeses and a whatever.
Yeah. I don't, as most of my populace is not here, I would assume that anybody being here is fine so long as they are not affecting my population. So, no problem.
Very well. We will lower the pulleys and haul them up. And so the druids head off and they work the pulley systems for a bit. And first, the woman, without her, she leaves her steed behind, but you can still see the plate mail glistening in the light of the setting sun. And she reaches the top. Shortly after, she's accompanied by her vizier dressed in strange robes. He has a very, very tall hat, much taller than seems reasonable. His robes look entirely impractical, but he moves with an unusual grace. She, on the other hand, is business. She is crossed arms and somewhat confrontational in appearance. But yeah, they both sort of approach and sit down. The man sort of gestures to all of you and says, "We bid you tidings. We come from the Empire of Argus to the north of the wall, to the north of the mountains, where we hold vigil on the Great Wall.
I'll say, greetings. For what purpose do you hold vigil on this wall?
It is the woman who speaks, and she says, to keep chaos at bay." The man sort of bows in deference to her, but then supplements with more detailed information. North of the wall are many violent tribes that worship chaotic demons and dark gods. Their corrupted taint could harm all beyond, so we must hold vigil and keep them at bay. It is fortuitous that you are having a meeting, as we had thought that we would need to visit each in turn, but this is a great opportunity for us to all sit down together and discuss what must be done. She seems satisfied with what he's added to her, just nods in agreement and just sits silently.
Does she have anything of value?
Her plate mail is very, very shiny. Her sword is shinier and glows slightly from under the scabbard.
Does she have like a dagger?
Oh yeah, a couple.
Okay, I'll take a dagger. I'm not going to ask. And I will say, this is, and I will present it to her. I'm in her own dagger. And I'll say, this is of extreme value to us. That this is a great thing. It's like crafted metal. Very difficult to find. The trees do not make this. And then I say, I will take this gift and I will treasure it among my people. And then I give her a bag of acorns and I say, these are valuable acorns of the highest value from a sacred tree that is in our grove. May they bring you great multitudes.
She looks to the sort of vizier with a raised eyebrow, and he kind of hurriedly shakes his head. Those of you who are more in tune with human emotions get the impression that he's saying, not now, not here, not yet.
and then immediately turn, and in a few squeaks, I trade the dagger away to one of the people, like one of the attendants that's with me, for a bit of cheese.
So, what is the reason that you've come here? Do you need men? Some kind of information?
We come here to offer you an opportunity to serve on the wall. Again, the man supplements her simple and direct words with a more complex explanation. The wall must cover a great distance, and it requires a great amount of manpower. And since you are benefiting from the protections of the wall, we thought it only fitting to offer you an opportunity to earn honor and glory serving in the ranks that protect civilization from the chaos that would spread from the north.
The chaos beyond the wall, does it have things of value?
Oh no, he says. There is nothing of value there, for only the taint of chaos, which will bring death and destruction upon all.
Where there is no value, there is no trade. We will bring trade to this place, and thereby increase its value.
I believe you misunderstand.
And I say, thefts. We have a mission. There's a place of no value. And they salute.
I believe you misunderstand. I mean to say that if you go there, you will become tainted and bring ruin upon your people. It is poison to breathe the air of the north.
Is the poison valuable? All things have value.
He looks at her somewhat concerned, and she says...
I chitter to the other ones, and I say, they're animals. They lack perspective.
She says, it is possible the taint has spread here already. And he sort of shakes his head and says, I sense no chaos here. Which is a weird thing to hear at this meeting, because you guys are some of the most chaotic people you've ever known.
By now, one of my entourage comes back eating some grapes, which he traded the dagger for, which is now just lying in the dirt next to a pile of grapes.
I'm pretty sure by the end of this, she's going to have her dagger back. Not from any complex schemes, but she's just going to pick it up.
Yeah, don't let us see that. You can't just take something out of the basket without putting something back in it. I mean, that's stealing from the basket. And we do not endorse theft.
I let her know. Certainly, none of me and my entourage that are here today are willing to go to your wall. But I can't speak for every vagabond that's in my wastelands. So, maybe some would go, maybe some wouldn't. I would have to run that past them. Though, if you'd want them around, that'd be another problem.
There is a crossroads to the south of here. We will set up a camp there. Those who wish from your people to join us you can send them our way, and we will ensure that they are trained, fed, and delivered to their posts along the wall.
Will we have? Shall we have communication with the people that are on the wall that are from our cities?
Are you asking her?
Yes, I'm asking them. I'm asking them both.
She shrugs and says, how you communicate is not my concern. He supplements, he says, methods of communication are neither forbidden nor provided. If you have means of communicating, you may use it, but we are focused more on the military matter of maintaining the safety of everything to the south of our wall.
Good. I think I might have some force that I'm able to provide. He says with a big smile as he's holding his staff.
Will there be a problem if I do offer this opportunity to my tribe and nobody wants to assist you?
She shrugs. She says, "Service at the moment is voluntary, but know that they would be protecting the rest of their families from a horrible and violent death."
I mean,
If they have backpacks, one of my entourage is currently in one of their backpacks rummaging through it.
No, the people that came up just brought what they had on them. They're fairly well
Okay.
armed, but they don't have like supplies. All that stuff is down at the bottom of the.
If there are backpacks, they're being rummaged through right now. So
The druids have backpacks, and
okay,
yeah.
they'll be rummaged through.
Damn raccoons. I will say that I'll confer with my other council members. It is unlikely we have aid to send. We are willing to send choice members to investigate this so-called wall and your workings, but we do not guarantee volunteers. Are you open to investigations of this wall?
Oh,
And
you mean?
that's me asking them.
She says, "I mean, anyone who comes with us is going to get a tour of the wall. That's the point of this. To put men on the wall."
To be clear, this is not volunteering people to be put on the wall. This is people coming to look at the wall and decide whether or not we are willing to put people on.
She kind of shakes her head and goes, "I don't think you understand. Once you're on the wall, there is nothing to do but defend it. All efforts must be. To do otherwise is to invite weakness. A crack in the wall would destroy everything to the south of it."
I stare at her blankly. She's the one that responded, right?
Yeah.
I stare at her blankly and understand the way this is working and look to the other guy and stare at him and wait for an answer.
So he sees your stare and says, "I understand your concern. It is not impossible to have someone come and observe the wall. And that is perfectly fine. What she means to say is that if that person gets in the way, they will be slain. The functioning of the wall must be the defense of it against incursion. And the wall is a place of extreme vigilance and one might say paranoia. And so persons who are not contributing to its defense will be viewed upon as a risk. If they truly become a risk, be prepared for them to not return."
I trade a sextant to the other one of my entourage for a handful of grapes. No one really knows where I got the sextant from. And then I say, we are incredibly vigilant. And someone passes me a twig, and I hand him a book.
Yeah, I guess I'll step up at this point and I'll say, I'm sure you can understand that I'm reluctant to commit forces against an adversary that I do not know and have not seen. However, what you've told of chaos and corruption beyond the wall is, of course, of great concern to us. And we would certainly like to send some some of our experts to investigate this corruption and to perhaps exchange knowledge and perhaps find um, new or simply refined and perfected ways to combat it.
Very well. I've heard the answers from each of you, and in turn, I restate my offer. We will be at the crossroads to the south. We will camp there for 2 weeks and then return north. Any who come to our camp shall be fed, clothed, armed, and taken to posts. Those of you who wish to send observers, keep them well clear so that they do not impede our movements. But they will be unharmed so long as they do not impede us. And then she gets up, and they use the pulleys to take her down. Her assistant pauses before coming down and says, "She really is a very nice person. There's just a lot of responsibility in keeping the wall maintained. And the Emperor's request that you be offered an opportunity, given permission to participate, is unusual, it's new, and she's worried that your stock will not necessarily meet up to her standards, but I feel like I've seen great potential here today."
Ah, and who is this emperor you speak of?
The Emperor of Ardis. That, by virtue of his title, it has become his name.
So is he also north as well?
Yes. Our empire spans the entire mountain range to the north of here.
I was gonna say, as like her and the entourage like are leaving, and this guy is like preparing to leave for them to go to wherever they're gonna wait for a meeting later. I kind of talked to one of my five that's like come with us, and he seemingly goes to fetch something.
Okay. The guy's basically just waiting for the people operating the pulleys to finish lowering his commander to the ground before bringing the little pulley elevator back up for him. It's a really makeshift affair that was thrown together in an afternoon, so it's not like high-tech or efficient. It's basically a bucket hanging over a cliff that just barely fits a person. But they're trusting it, as good diplomats do.
Yeah, and when I have a moment, I'd like to speak to basically, I suppose the same druid that originally came to Koresh and presented us with the opportunity to come here. And I would just kind of put it out there that given that these people have spoken of corruption in the wild, that's a threat that I feel some obligation to take seriously. Although I can't help but be a little wary of what they may regard as corruption and devil worship. I will be sending some of my foremost druids and rangers. However, I would be interested in also. I believe there may be value in also having them be accompanied by some druids who are not of our order, who may have been exposed to different rituals and different ways of thought and different magics than we have been, so that we'll have a wider variety of experiences to draw upon in determining what the nature of this threat beyond the wall is, and indeed if it's a threat at all.
This is wise, and I think there are some young druids that would be up for a little bit of stealth reconnaissance as well. We haven't done much in the way of entering the mountains. Beyond the tree line, there's really not much for a druid of most of our natures, but some of these young ones have been studying the sea and the sky as well as the earth, and I think they'll be right at home. I'll pick out a few, a hand select group. We'll see what they can come up with.
Oh, thank you. I'll see. Yes, thank you. That is most excellent. I think this will be to the benefit of all of us.
Max, your guy comes back with whatever it is you sent him for.
Yeah. That's not exactly what he did, but yeah.
Okay. The guys lower down the elevator, and they step off into the night. The campfires now burn high. The feast is in full swing. Um, while the druids ask you guys to provide many of the basic necessities, they provided the wine. And wine from druid-grown grapes is quite a thing.
We're not particularly interested in the wine, but we love the grapes. So several baskets that used to contain grapes now contain meat that we found on a table. No one was claiming it, so we just picked it up and traded it for the grapes.
The end result of the constant exchanges of the raccoons is that most of the food is fairly evenly distributed among the camp, and pretty much anyone can reach in any bowl, and there will be something delicious there. The next morning, of course, you guys have another opportunity to talk amongst yourselves before the conclusion of the moot. Anything that you wish to discuss? And in fact, I'm going to take this opportunity to refill my caffeinated beverage.
Okay, and to be clear, none of us did we know each other at all before this? Like, was there any established relationship between our cities? I know that there was some trading going on between Ed and some of the others, but other than that, we're pretty much strangers.
Yeah, this is the first really formal diplomatic interaction you guys have had. You know that some of your citizens have gone to the other cities for various reasons, trade and such. But broadly speaking, you guys have not engaged in any diplomatic actions before this.
You haven't, but we have. So the head theft recognizes your people and says, "We thank you for the gift of food. We used it well. I hope that you found our basket and the twigs that we left of value to your people."
I'll just kind of. I mean, I'm familiar with these guys, right? Or
Yeah.
am I not?
Now,
Okay,
there's no way to be in this forest and not have encountered any of the Kashak.
I'll say, of course. As always, I would certainly request in the future all trade between our people be done with through a mutual understanding, which both parties have explicitly agreed to the terms. But nonetheless, I recognize that that a trade was made, and I'm glad to hear that the food was put to good use.
I say, we will attempt so. The food wasn't yours; it was just left in a field somewhere. We traded with the earth, but we felt that perhaps since it was near your people, we would give you a gift as for being good enough to the earth that it would multiply.
Yes, very, very thoughtful of you.
Yeah, my guy like perks up whenever you mention about the you left sticks for everyone. It just kind of looks at them. It's like, okay, thanks for the gift. Like,
They were the best. They were the best twigs in the wood. Some of them were from very high branches. Very good twigs.
Yeah, I'll say by curiosity, on what grounds do you judge the quality of a twig? I would like to know.
And says, yeah, well, one must have a good perspective. And then I pick up one of the thefts picks up a random twig and says, this twig is extremely brittle, but would burn very well. Excellent for starting fires. And then he picks up a different twig, which is like kind of green. It's been broken off of a tree, basically, or something. It's like fresh. And he says, "This one would burn very poorly." It's like, but is excellent for swatting flies or playing games. It will not break easily. Very pliant.
man, it must be very boring on that tree.
Say, okay. So I'll turn to address the Steph who has just educated me on twig quality, and I'll say, if I'm to understand correctly, your intention is to send operatives beyond the wall, correct? In search of commerce?
Perhaps. In search of trade and the increase of value.
I'll say, if indeed there is a corruption there, perhaps we could assist one another in increasing the value of the land by ridding it of this corrupt.
Perhaps. He says, I have a twig for that as well. And he pulls a strange looking twig that's got weird carvings in the side of it out of his backpack. And says, this twig causes fires, large fires.
Do I recognize this wand? I assume it's a wand.
It says the value of a twig can be very deceiving.
So yes, that is indeed quite some twig.
And he says, you like it?
So I believe that it would be of great value to others, perhaps not so much to myself.
The head theft says, of course he likes it. He has commented on it. It's like, and he said, and the other theft says, very well. And he hands it to you and he says, it is yours. And takes whatever you're eating off of your plate and says, I accept your gift.
Whatever I'm eating, I'll actually give him I'll give him another one. I'll say, actually, that exchange rate, I believe you are owed slightly more. So to even the scales, I will up the offer as a show of good faith.
All of the raccoons chatter together, look at you suspiciously, chatter together again, and then say, very well, very well. We do not take charity.
Oh, certainly not. I believe that I believe that this could be of particular use, and it would feel frankly, it would feel like charity to me if you gave this to me for only one article of.
Of course.
I will
Very
allow
well.
anyone present who wishes to make a scholarship check for their nation and figuring out what the wand really is.
Of course.
And one of the others chitters at the guy who's trading with you. And the guy says, chitters back, and then kind of he sighs and says, very well, very well. And he says, and he reaches into his pack and pulls out like basically a sack of boiled eggs that he's taken off one of the tables and says, you may have these as well. And he hands them to you. He says, these are of great value, and they will even the scales and make me feel good about this trade.
Say, yes, this is now a perfectly even exchange.
What should we add to scholarship?
That's a good question. I would say culture. It would normally be your infrastructure, but you're away from home right now.
I put that in the wrong place. Just as well.
Miles, was that 4 successes I see there, your roll?
Yes, it looks like Tyson and I both got 4 successes.
Okay. Both of you recognize that this is not merely a fireball wand, but is a wand of fire siege. It's meant for attacking cities. It is a dangerous weapon, quality 5, and it only has one real use, and that is a single spell cast. It does recharge eventually, but it's very slow. But when it does cast that one spell, it causes a city level of immolation that devastates walls and buildings. That a tiny raccoon took one to a diplomatic conference and just kind of handed it out like a party favor is terrifying.
Like,
The head theft sends a group of others over to a table that has no one around it at the moment, and they just begin taking everything off the table and putting it into sacks.
I have no idea what that is. I just look at like my entourage and I'm just like, okay, apparently these people all like sticks.
It's like, it is a long journey. We will accumulate the unclaimed, unvalued things for our journey to the wall. And they're basically stripping the table bare. One of them is prying the nails out of it.
Very interesting. Well,
Ed, your guys should make an exploration check. They may have some knowledge, some cultural knowledge. So a culture plus exploration check for you guys. No, never mind. All right.
It's always the worst failing when it's like, oh no, never mind, bad roll.
Yeah,
Whatever I was about to say,
nothing to see.
I'm not going to say it. Yeah, no, you didn't see anything. No, you didn't miss anything. Nothing happened.
well, if you have a lot to trade, my city has a lot to offer in terms of information.
His city smells of blood, and there are no acorns.
Information is not valuable. You can't trade information. Once someone knows a thing, you cannot give it away. It has no intrinsic value. Another one says they own things in their city. It's like he's an animal. He believes that he can own more than he can carry. It is an illusion. It's like it is a disease of the talking animals. Many of them believe this. You have much to learn, Thef.
Well, my doors are always open for anyone that wishes to come visit me. I'm always a gracious host.
One of the Thefts says, yes, they are.
All right. If there is no further business, then eventually the meeting is adjourned. The druids read the skies to determine the next date at which another moot will be held, and they ask as one final thing that each of you agrees that by the next moot you will have some supplies ready to help to basically feed each other and make the moot a success. Because trade is sort of being established, they will accept money as a fair means to help out with the moot, and then they'll just use the money to buy food from local farmers and things.
Since it's adjourned and they're setting meetings for next time, this entire thing and the reason why I even wanted access in the first place was so that I could get intel on all the other people and possibly figure out if there's any like merit in establishing any connections with them. So I'm gonna like have each of my guys that is still remaining basically tail the 3 other people, except for not the raccoons because they're just playing with sticks and I don't see any value in that.
So The non-meat present here was all delivered by one nation, which seems to be bountiful in its fruits and vegetables. Um, their agriculture is way beyond what you guys have, and they have the ability to feed themselves and you throughout harsh times. So great is their economic, specifically food-based economic power. Another of these is just they've got great engineers. As you follow them, you realize that the pulley systems, and the plans for future staircases are all being engineered by one of the cities. And then finally, you find that all of the really excellent craftsmanship, the intricately carved and yet incredibly sturdy furniture, tents, and such was all created by a third city. And the raccoons appear to, they're nuts and berries.
Well, is there any way that I can have my people basically like have them go and start like infiltrating like the cities and establish like a spy connection network through there?
You can certainly try. This is going to be an espionage plus intrigue, and you'll see if you can get them embedded. Bear in mind, of course, that your people are all criminals that were exiled from one of these cities. So there's at least a 1 in 3 chance that they're infiltrating a city that has a bounty out on them.
We will trade metals with you if you value metals.
I'm not like letting anybody know that I'm doing any of this. Like this is all just sending them out and seeing like what I can do.
People get caught.
I let them know I don't have metals, and right now I don't have a need. Right now.
Very well. If you have a need of metals, sharp, heavy, or otherwise, we have many metals.
Talking to the raccoon like hurts my guy's brain because
It's like some of the more valuable metals still have skeletons in them.
oh,
What?
I
was still
suits of armor,
thinking
potentially.
swords. Yeah, I was still thinking swords. I was like, I don't understand how it's inside the sword. Totally forgot about her. I can only handle so much of Ed's tossing around. My brain is finding it hard to catch.
All right, Max. So you have 3 successes that you can distribute among the 3 cities. Each success will represent a quality of spy that you've infiltrated. How do you want to distribute those successes?
what do you mean? So if it's like 1 die for 1 city, that's like they're 1 quality.
Yep, that would be a quality 1 spy in that city. Which basically means anything you're going to have the spy do is going to sacrifice the spy.
Or you can send a quality 3 spy.
Yeah, that's what I was considering.
Do you have
Yeah.
eggs? We value eggs.
I think
They're
I'll just do
extremely good.
sticky keys. Also, the guy that I had go get something whenever the knights left, he's tailing them. I mean, I never rolled for anything like that, but yeah, I'll just do a 1 quality in all the cities.
Okay.
Well, not the raccoons.
So add to your inventory 3 individual quality 1 spies, 1 for each city that you're sending them to. Let's see, Runeterra, what did you plan to get out of this meeting? What was your overriding goal?
My plan was well, first to size up to see exactly what kind of character everyone of all the cities was. Like noticing any of their certain ticks or anything while in conversations. And let's see. Yeah, potential, like seeing which are which could be like potential threats, or which ones could be potential. What are they called? People that help you. Subservience. But yeah, this was just basically a giant, like research.
Okay. Make a culture plus scholarship roll.
What's the Blood City's name and the Cave City's name?
The Blood City's name is Runeterra. The Cave City's name is Terra Prime. I'm sorry, Terra Firma.
You want me to change my name?
No.
I can change it.
No, I just need to actually focus on what I'm reading instead of glancing over it.
I was gonna call it like Subsoil or something else. Still, I like any name that has to do with ground and.
Yeah, and for the I just want to double check for the knowledge of the depths. That could be any role, or just anything that's except for knowledge. I meant a scholarship role.
Let's see.
So I'm pretty sure you said to spend either a scholarship or 5 endurance to add your scholarship to a role.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you wanna tax your scholarship, or tax your endurance, to
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Since you use knowledge of the depths, you won't actually get this full information until you get back to your library to read it. But yeah, we'll go over that when you return. Miles, the Korath and Danu civilization. What did your guys want to accomplish at this meeting?
So I would have had 2 goals. One would be somewhat similar to Tice's goal, which would be that I would simply like to better understand the city states around me, so that I might understand which I can work with, which are potential threats, which may be guided in some way. But probably even more importantly than that, I'd be operating out of a sincere desire to just to establish some kind of diplomatic relationship, so that we could, in the future, I'd be better able to understand their comings and goings, and what we might expect from them.
Okay. I'd like you to make a culture plus diplomacy roll.
All right. Didn't learn much.
Well, you got 1 success. You may establish a quality 1 embassy in the city of your choice. This embassy is similar to a spy, but is very official. It's recognized that it's supposed to be there. And your diplomacy is such that you can enforce this upon any city you wish.
I would like to establish a diplomatic relationship with Terra Firma.
All right, Terra Firma. I know you like to keep a lot of secrets, but the pressures of his diplomats have put you in a position where you've been sort of forced to agree to establish an embassy. So he has you set aside a piece of cave, probably isolated from most of your shit, but nevertheless, it's a place where their ambassadors can be readily available to engage in diplomacy without necessarily needing to travel all the way to the city. Of course, obviously, he's a spy, but he's a spy that's out in the open. He's a spy that has advertised where to come to see him.
As opposed to your hidden spies.
Right. It's slightly better than a hidden spy.
I mean, it's less likely to die.
Yes, that is absolutely the advantage of an embassy. It's harder for them to actually do spying because everyone knows who they are, but it's also much harder for them to meet unfortunate accidents in back alleys. Their unfortunate accidents happen on the front porch, or when they put the keys in the ignition of their car. But since there are no cars in this universe, we're doing good. Speaking of Loam Firma, oh, I like that.
Changed today.
That's a nice one. Speaking of Loam Firma, what is it that you wanted to get out of this meeting?
Let me think. Yeah, see, even with your embassy, you don't even notice that my name changes. See, it's perfect. It's subtle. It's fantastic. Let's see. The main objective was like others, getting intel on the other ones. There was fearful notions on the wandering tribe and the daunting town with the, how do you describe it? It has like a clock tower, did you say, or a tower?
No, the town itself is clockwork. The streets rearrange themselves on a regular cycle.
Got it. That place is very frightening. And so I feel like I got those confirmed for free, that those are not viable, interactable places. So my intent was to figure that out, and then with the other two cities. So I was also looking to set up viable trade, continuous trade options with the other two. Seeing as I've already ventured into one, to make it much less impromptu, and then set up some sort of regular trading route with the other.
Okay. You can make a trade plus different options here. Because, well, at the moment, you're just sort of meeting them face to face. When trade starts to actually happen, a lot of it's going to be based on where you put stuff. And a lot of that is basically infrastructure based. If you have places for the traders to dock up their carts and do loading and unloading, things get much more effective, especially when you have multiple trade partners. So do a trade plus infrastructure to see how well you can set up trade relationships with these cities.
Yeah, I was just gonna push for that, actually, based on the fact that I have multiple entry points to the city and well-maintained channels for those. So I actually have like multiple drop-off points, and most likely one near the city, and the efficiency of moving stuff through those channels. Okay, so infrastructure and trade.
Yes. All right, you have 5 successes. You can establish trading posts with the other cities. Assigning the posts to them will increase the value, or so the increase the quality of the trading posts.
Okay, so I just divide those amongst the two I want.
Yep. So create 2 items in your city's inventory for the trade posts with the other cities. Trade posts are highly ineffective for all but the most basic forms of spying because you're generally not in direct control of the personnel that you're using. It's whatever merchants are out there doing their thing. And half those merchants are not yours. They're the merchants of the other city that you're establishing the trading post with, who will use the trade routes that your post establishes to come to your city. So it's sort of a two-way street, but it's a very effective way of pushing your culture onto another city.
I also figure you find out what they find of value and what they consider. You can keep track of. We will keep like constant records of what they're willing to trade, and it'll give us more information on what they have and what they find valuable.
Yeah, there is some intelligence to be gotten there, but it's minimal compared to having an actual spy or diplomat present.
Yeah. And I don't want my people in other towns. I want my people in my place.
And lastly, Kashak. What did the Kashak people want to get out of this meeting?
There's a rumor amongst our people. I mean, it's an exchange of value. We find it to be ridiculous, but we have a large amount of useless metals from the Cave of Dragon, and we bring them over. And apparently, if you give the gold metal, they'll trade its weight in eggs, which is just stupid, but we're totally happy to take their eggs. So that's our primary goal for this meeting. We've accumulated many eggs they're just lying about. But yeah, we'll attempt to. We have basically like a 2-pound gold bar that we're interested in trading for eggs. That's our primary goal.
All right, make an economy plus trade roll. And you will receive a stockpile of eggs of the quality that you get there. So yeah, 7 successes. You have a quality 7 stockpile of eggs.
Jesus.
The rumors are true.
We chitter amongst ourselves. The fools, the fools.
When each of you returns to your village, some things happen here. So let's go over to, let's see, Runeterra. When you return to your city...
I'm gonna have to check it out soon.
What's up?
I'm gonna have to check out soon.
We're gonna do the returns to the cities, and then we're gonna stop.
Okay.
So Runeterra, when you return to your city, you check in your libraries. You confirm with your information. You rolled 5 successes. You have a 5 quality 5 map of the stars. It turns out that the druids were arranging the tents by their own pattern, which is celestial in origin, and relates to the path of a falling star from ancient history. Interestingly, the path of this fallen star intersects where your records indicate the dead god used to reside before it was slain. It is possible that the star itself was the weapon that slew the god.
So what about getting a star map?
Yes, it is a map of the... We're going to call it actually the map to the stars. It's a quality 5 map that details the trajectory of a falling star and its probability of intersecting with a god that is now dead and at the bottom of your city. It seems likely from the map that the star itself is what killed the god when it fell. Where the star is now is of some debate. but the map may help your people in researching it, and it is a quality 5 map.
Excellent.
Max, when you return to your city, do you spread news of this sort of army expedition to the wall?
Yeah, I let them know what happened and that we have spies in other cities now, and um, about the wall, and if anybody wants to do that.
All right. A few people who are down on their luck figure that free meals might be worth standing on a wall for a bit, so they scamper off. But yeah, by and large, your people continue doing what they're doing. Miles, when your ruler returns to your city, um, what news do you spread? I know you had a plan to send an expedition with the druids.
Yeah, and I won't go to very much effort. I won't go to any particular effort to hide that information. The very specifics of the mission itself, of course, will only be shared with the people who on a need-to-know basis. But yeah, I would share the information with the population at large that we have met with envoys from various different city-states. We have participated in a star moot with other druids outside of our order. That we are attempting to establish diplomatic relations with them, and that we have heard news of an empire to the north and a wall that requires investigation and manning, and that we will in fact be sending some druids and rangers to investigate this wall and to help us get clarity on what we need to do next.
By and large, you do very well represent the will of your people. And so while many of them are noble in their intent to, protect their people, they're not super warlike and are a little suspicious of the circumstances. And so they, much like you, are waiting for further information. So not a lot of recruits come out of your city. Troy, you return to your city. Yeah, it's a little bit annoying than setting up the embassy, but you managed to get through it. How do your people respond to this request for people up on the wall? I know you wanted to send observers.
So yeah, I confer with the council, and I am the council.
Yep, you are the
So
council.
the council.
I am the Senate.
I am the Senate.
Not yet, you're not. Sorry, couldn't resist.
So they confer and discuss in private, obviously, with the embassy being set up. They have somewhat reinforced their council chambers, and they decide to send a contingent, a small group of people, to go investigate. Kind of a mix of people. It's like basically like someone of knowledge, like observational knowledge, and a few like warrior type people, or army intelligence, basically. And then it's agreed they'd send one additional at the behest of the main council member or the highest council member. They send one to deal with as they do in these scenarios, to deal with our own people should anything happen that they can't return. So basically, a group of people to go observe the wall, and then one to kill them in case they could shed secrets about our village.
The commissariat.
Yeah.
All right.
But they are not volunteering, and they are told not to volunteer or to be put to work. They are simply observing, and they are they're given the like knowledge of what they had said. Like if they get in the way, they are not
They are
they're
forfeit.
not yeah, and so they'll do their best to stay out of the way, etc. But capture's not an option as the last person, but they don't know about the last person's.
All right. And Ed, what happens upon your return? I know you guys were planning on setting out as well with very, very different agendas with the wall.
Well, we're going to distribute what's left of the eggs when we get back.
Yeah, that stockpile should last you through many a bad season.
Yeah, and then we're going to collect some things that we think might be of value in the in a situation involving a wall, like sconces. Sconces are useful for walls. And then we're going to take a small entourage of people with what we believe to be extremely valuable things, and head over to the wall to see what's on offer for exchange.
All right. And that's where we will pick up next time. For successfully completing the first star moot, each of your civilizations gains a renown. Renowns, much like with a normal heroic character, renowns may be spent to increase your connections or resources by 1, or may be converted into 10 experience points.
Resources by 1.
Additionally, if you found something cool that you wanted to keep, or a character that you wanted to add to your civilization, you may do so. I know you didn't meet a lot of characters, just some druids and things, but if any of you wants to permanently add a druid to your staff, you may spend a renown and get a quality 6 druid as a member of your civilization.
That's a tough one. I kind of want the 10 experience, but I kind of want a druid. So I'll think about it.
Have druids. You have
Those
so
of you
many
with
druids.
scholarly bents also, if you've acquired magical items, you may study the magical items to make it so that it's something your society has as an item, as opposed to a single one in your inventory.
Like things like the star map.
The star map, the staff of food growth, and the wand of sieging.
Okay, because I'll be spending my renown on then make it integral.
All right, so it is now an integral part of your society that the star map exists. Copies of it are distributed to all of the great universities and houses. It's on display behind the crest of your ruling house.
Yeah, I think I would like to do the same with Fire Siege. You know, we do believe in defense, and we believe deterrence is a strong form of defense. So having it be known that we are capable of burning your cities to the ground is probably beneficial to maintaining an equilibrium.
Generally, druids don't like fire, but in this case, we're willing to make an exception.
Hey, fires now, forest fires are perfectly natural. They're part of the life cycle.
That's true.
Yeah, and as a side note, I was also going to send some people, but we can do that next time.
Troy, did you want to make the staff generally distributed among your people, or is that still a unique item?
What does that mean? Like, if it's generally.
It means that using up its tax doesn't actually destroy it, because your people have more than one copy. They've learned how to replicate it, and it's something your society has now is staves of growth. it won't increase its capabilities, but it does mean that it's not a permanently depleted resource. Its tax will be regeneratable, just as all of your other taxes are, with your city's sort of rest cycle in the winter.
Okay, and the that's probably what I'm gonna do. But the druid capacity, it would be someone basically like owned by the city through his
A druid
six
becomes loyal to your city. Yeah.
through his like 6, and then once he's out, you remove him as a
No, he's a
loyal.
follower. He's a quality 6 follower. He stays with your city, loyal to it. He can be killed, but yeah, he will never betray your city or leave it just because he's been taxed out. Taxing out might be that he died. That's always possible. The narration of the circumstance will matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I was almost tempted at picking up a druid of because of how the reaction the druid had to coming to my city the first time.
I mean, I have a bunch of druids in my city now, and I can't really do anything about it. But if I I could get an earth-based druid, right, and have him manipulate magics and build up my city.
Yeah.
And that's more beneficial, I think, than having
and
staff
one of the
druid long
main
term.
differences between him and the ambassadors is that he would be loyal to your city.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll get an like earth elemental based.
All right. You can name him and everything.
I will work on that.
And that. I'm sorry, missed out. Ed, what did you want? You have an infinite treasure trove of random magical nonsense.
Yeah, I don't really want anything. We're going to
Oh, you just boosted your resources. Nice.
Yep. We take all of the stuff that was not nailed down at the moot and deposit it in the strange tree.
The whole pulley system is gone and rebuilt at the tree.
Oh man, this gives me good ideas.
And Max, what did you want to do with your renown?
I don't know. I couldn't really justify like a druid randomly like hanging out with me in my head. I don't know. I think maybe since I did the spying and stuff, I might just up connections.
Okay. You also can convert it into 10 experience points if you want to.
Yeah, which you can increase, like what, espionage?
I could. Connections also help with something like espionage, though, too, wouldn't they?
Connections are generally going to help when you need to find somebody in your city with a really specific talent. Not something general like espionage, but something specific like breaking into magical vaults or raising the dead, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I'll raise that because that actually makes more sense. Given how my city operates and the fact that people come from other places, like it'll be better and easier for me to like explain that I found really specialized people.
All right,
Okay.
that concludes the session. Go ahead and do closing ceremony.
Okay, I'd like to give one to Echelon for his whole using like the English words, but in like weird ways, like the cave of the dragon or the what's it called, Deity Theft. Just like these words were like in common English they mean totally something else, but to you they like sound like some kind of mystical words that you add on. I'd like to give one to Max for his for his new spy work network. Which for some reason, when it comes to like when I think of barbarians, I think it's just a couple guys in like ripped shirts, just like you know anything. That's what I think they are, and they're like, we're totally from this city. They put on like a hat.
But they're a lot more random crazy outlaws than they are like barbarians ripping each other's shirts off and like wrestling.
Yeah, and I like to give one to Marlowe for basically having I have the nuke button, but I'm the peaceful druids. But if I have to not be the peaceful druids, I will push the nuke button. Don't make me push the nuke button.
Yeah, I never said we're peaceful. We prefer peace. It's better for everyone.
Yes, and I'd like to give one to the underground city for basically like, here is our embassy, but not really an embassy. It's sort of an embassy. It's sort of like it's cut off. It's own. It's basically its own mini village because because no one else is allowed in there, and like hopefully it's like it's their way of being welcoming without being welcoming. That's everyone.
All right, I can go next. So to Max for being the sole person to question to the Empire whether or not it's wise for them to want your people on their wall. Thought that was very in keeping with the society that you've built. That perhaps that will be of more trouble to them than aid. To Tice for learning what sounds like is some pretty important information about the dead god on which your city is founded. To Troy for establishing as your form of rulership a bureaucracy so convoluted that it actually works to your advantage. That it's like digging so deep you come out the other end. You wouldn't think it would happen, but it can. And to Ed for revealing that the end goal of your kind of Yankee swap type trading endeavors was to land as many eggs as possible. I was wondering where it was going. I was wondering what the end goal was, and that's a good one.
I'll go. Kashak, Ed, for seriously just passing the dagger to every possible thing and trading it all around everywhere, and then establishing that presence through the entire move of just moving crap everywhere. But particularly the dagger was quite entertaining. Something Dan went. Miles for damn you for establishing an embassy in my city, but smart move, setting that up and taking to it. It'll be interesting to see what you're capable of finding out, and if I'm gonna have to actually make rolls against you, because it's important that you don't find out certain things. Runeterra, your beginning was gruesome. I don't fully understand your town. I don't know if the people if they died as a part of your thing. You're essentially sending them to like your bleeding pits, right? It's a very interesting town, and it freaks me out, and I'm glad it's very easy to have the other towns realize that it's freaking them out because you're selling the freak out. And then the wandering rut for actually doing your when your hunting went awry, that you actually had your villagers shake down the rest of your villagers to like figure out like just find all the stuff. It's very in keeping of what you're doing. So that's awesome. Your town's pretty fun.
Yeah. To Tice for trying to establish some kind of rune or something whenever he was going to help build the city, but unfortunately it didn't work out that way. Uh, for Ed, because when I heard that you got quality 7 eggs, I wasn't thinking, oh, it's a quantity of quality 7s, so it's like a whole crap load of regular eggs. I was thinking you got handed like dragon eggs or something. like, oh my god. And then you ate them, and I guess you're passing them out. So, I mean, either way, I mean, I guess they still get eaten. To the, I don't remember which Terra it is, but the one that's a cave city. Um, for you to really want to be like isolated, but like this meeting has not been good for you because now you have all types of people inside your city, whether they be wanted or unwanted. And he's got the Druid city, right? The other Terra. Um, let me see.
It's Korth and Danuin.
I'm trying to think. The terrorists keep like screwing me up, so I'm like trying to remember like what specifically like you had going on.
The underground one has been renamed Loam Firma.
Oh yeah, yours is the one where the old guys lived like forever, and that's why he's got like the most power.
Yeah,
that was Lone
that's the
Terra.
underground city. So there's the underground
Oh.
city, there's the bloody city, there's the Druidy city, there's your Thunderdome city, and there's the city of raccoons.
So which item did he get? The Druid city.
We got the Fire Siege.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, yeah, like the fact that you were able to get handed and actually figure out that that you had such a crazy powerful wand when my guys definitely didn't. It's like, oh yeah, look, a stick.
Yeah, so Miles for graciously accepting my twig, understanding the true value of twigs, and then as far as we could tell, attempting to scam us out of our true value by over trading, which is just a clever move. But it didn't work on us. Um, and let's see for Max, you haven't found any value in any of the things we're trading so far, but I believe that you can be moved. You can be moved in the future. We're going to bring some stuff that we think your people might value. Meat doesn't keep very well, and we don't really like it, but we can find things.
We'll see.
There's going to be a raccoon carrying like just bristling with maces and like daggers and swords on their way over. All in the hopes that maybe you have some eggs. To Tice for making a really solidly good effort in trying to trade information. It is a valuable thing to your kind. To our kind, we have lots of information. It's free. It's just in the air. Most importantly, it can't be given away, which is something that we're very concerned about. However, if you have means of giving away information, that would be an incredible technology to us. And to Troy for helping us out with our food shortage and graciously accepting the gift of the large glowy staff, which had already traded hands a large number of times, and so its value within our group was kind of waning at this point. So it's good that it went to a good home. Regifting is never good. cycling things too much.
Did you do Tice already?
Yeah, he tried to trade information with me.
That's right. All right.
We have the hopes that potentially one day you can tell us how to actually give up information, yeah, forget it and cede ownership of said information. In which case, it will become a valuable commodity. Very lightweight, easy to carry, good stuff.
I'm not sure if you caught this too, but yours is one of the cities that Troy set up a trading post in.
That's fine. We probably didn't notice.
Figure trade is sort of your thing, so that should yeah.
All are welcome in the great trade halls.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. That was a good session. Did anybody have any final thoughts before we shut down the recording? All right.
No, it was a good time. It's the first time I've ever played a city, and
Yeah.
I like it. It's fun.
We're going to do this for a little while, take you guys through some history, and then when we get to the end, it may take a couple sessions, but yeah, then we'll, wherever the cities end up, that's the situation that we'll be making the next set of characters from. So, yeah, I'll see you guys next week.
Cool. See you next week.
Yep.